Did you know you can grow your email list as a podcast guest? Instead of borrowing someone else's audience, why not focus on growing your own? Take your listeners from curious to connected with a private podcast reader magnet. Want to try one out? Mine is called Listeners to Readers, and in just 6 short episodes, you'll learn how a private podcast can grow your email list and market your book. Grab it for free at listenerstoreaders.com. This is it. The episode you recorded as a guest just went live. Your voice, your message, your story out there for the world to hear. But now what? Do you share it? Do you repurpose it? Do you just move on to the next podcast to pitch? What you do after your podcast interview airs can be just as important as the interview itself. So let's talk about 2 sides of the same coin. Sharing generously to give back to your host and how to repurpose strategically to keep serving and meeting your own growth by guesting goals. So first, one of the biggest frustrations I hear from podcast hosts is when guests never share their episode. So they've given us an incredible gift, right? Their platform, their listeners, their trust. And then the episode airs and it's crickets, right? In the podcast host eyes. We can do better, y'all. Philippians 2:4 says, don't look out only for your own interest, but take an interest in others. And I thought the Message version said it really well. Don't be obsessed with getting your own advantage. Forget yourselves long enough to lend a helping hand. And that's what sharing your interview is. When you promote your episode, you're blessing the host and helping them grow their show and showing future hosts that you're a guest worth inviting back. So here's a few simple ways that you can share your episode generously. First off, post a graphic or a screenshot and tag the host on social. If you're active on social, even if you're not, if you have a profile there, you could still share it and tag. So you can use the image they sent or just grab a screenshot from your podcast app when you're listening to the interview. Tagging the host matters because it lets them know you're proud to be a part of their community because they're going to likely reshare it to their followers. So at a minimum, you can share the post they create on their social platforms, right? Just go to their post and share it to your friends and followers. Then number 2, you could also share an audiogram or a video clip from the episode. So you could pull a short quote from where you highlight something the host said, not just your own words. That small shift will surprise and delight and make your post feel collaborative, not self-promotional, right? And it goes back to your goals if they are building relationships with other people. This is a great way to start doing it with the host that you just served their audience. Now, number 3, you can give the host a shout out on your own platforms. So if you're not active on social, and a lot of people aren't these days, and that's okay, you can always mention your episode in your email newsletter or your own podcast or a blog post. So you're sending your audience to that podcast that had you on as a guest. That's generosity in action. So you might even consider sharing it on a guest cast dedicated to your interviews, like Thomas Umstead talked about here on the podcast on episode 27. And I'll be sure to put a link in the show notes to that episode. Then 4th, you could share it on your media page on your website. So when potential hosts or even event coordinators visit your website, they'll see the podcasts that have endorsed your message by inviting you to be on their show. And they'll want you to be on theirs too, right? And then 5th, keep sharing your guest episode over time. You can add your interviews into your long-term content plan. And when you reshare months later, tag the host again. And that way you'll stay top of mind and show that you value the relationship and the message that you shared. And also, there's always things, throughout your interview that you're like, ooh, I'd love to share that again. And this is a great way to keep doing it. So remember, hosts may forget the exact words you said in an interview, but they won't forget the way you made them feel, especially when you celebrate their show long after your episode airs. So sharing is about generosity and repurposing is more about stewardship, right? We're going to use what God's already given us, those stories, those insights, and sound bites from the interview to keep serving the people he's called you to reach. And in John 6:12, after feeding the 5,000, Jesus says, gather the leftovers. Let nothing be wasted. And that's our reminder. Let nothing be wasted from the message he's put on your heart. Your interviews are full of good content you can reuse, not to repeat yourself, but to meet your readers right where they are. And here's 6 ways you can repurpose strategically. So number 1, if you're active on social, share the interview again. But this time you're focused on different ways that you shared your message. There might be new takeaways or maybe more timely ones that you want to post that you can share at this time that falls into your current content plan. Maybe it's a carousel post with multiple tips from the episode, or maybe it's a short reel and you could even use the audio from the episode over some B-roll clips. There's lots of different ways you could do that. Then 2, you could turn your episode into a blog post or article. So if the host asked a great question that led to an insight, expand that moment into a written piece on your blog. And you can add SEO keywords or, of course, a link to your book if it's out. It'll keep serving new visitors long after the episode fades in the social feed. Then number 3, you can create an email or series for your subscribers. So you could turn a story from your interview into a short teaching or a reflection. And your readers might have never even heard that podcast, right? But they'll connect deeply with the same truth that you share with them in their inbox. And then 4th, you can turn your interview into content for your own podcast, or maybe a course you're creating, or even a chapter in a book you're writing. If you host a show or plan to start one, reuse that same topic on your show, right? Because it's applicable to your listeners. You already have the talking points. Now you just need to present them from your own mic and angle, right? You don't have somebody else asking the questions. You're guiding the conversation. Often after an interview, you'll be thinking, wow, that really sounded great. And I wish I could have dived deeper into that topic that we talked about. And now you can on an episode on your own show. So sharing and repurposing aren't competing actions. They actually complement each other. And when you share generously, you honor the relationship you're building with your host and their listeners. And when you repurpose strategically, you're honoring your own message and your own community. One builds connection, the other builds consistency. And actually, both of them do that, and both help move your author platform forward. So the next time an episode you're on goes live, pause before rushing on to the next thing, right? Ask yourself, 1, how can I give back to the host who gave me this opportunity? And 2, how can I reuse this content to keep serving my readers? Do that, and nothing from your interview will ever be wasted. So either you're sharing your interview to give back to the host or you're repurposing it to serve your own readers. Just remember, podcast guesting is not a one and done opportunity. It's a ripple effect. So one conversation can continue blessing people for months and even years to come. Is that not the best news ever? And if you have set podcasting goals for 2026 as a guest or host, I want you to save the date, Thursday, January 8th, for the Podcasting Made Simple live conference. It's hosted by my friend Alex at Podmatch, and there will be a ton of sessions that day with incredible guests speaking in hosting and guesting tracks. And I'm so thrilled because Alex invited me to speak on hosting a swap-worthy podcast, and I can't wait to share it. So I'll give more details as we get closer to that date so you don't miss out. Thanks for tuning in to Book Marketing Mania today. And as always, I'll be there for you next episode to help you reach and serve your readers one podcast at a time. See you then.